Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. And today we have as our special guest Lora Burke, the star of the recently released movie Motherly. Laura, thank you so much for being our guest. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I am doing great. And I'm really excited about this chat. As I told you just before we went live, I absolutely loved Motherly. Now, for all our viewers out there who have not watched Motherly yet and are interested in watching it, it's basically available on your video on demand streaming platform of choice. Look it up. It's available for rent or buy. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. Now, Laura, I got to start off as my first question. Is this your first leading role in a feature film?
No, it's not. I have, oh gosh, I don't know numbers, but I've done a few leading roles. I've been very lucky in the roles that I've had recently. So I've been number one on the call sheet a few times, and it's always a treat when that happens. So, it doesn't get easier, but not the first time.
You absolutely shined in Motherly, and I'm not saying that to blow smoke. I really mean it. As a parent myself, you absolutely drew us into what a parent would do for their child. Now, when it came on to you taking on this role, how important was that for you to portray?
In terms of what?
As a parent, having no limits as to what they would do for their child.
Yeah, I mean, well, that was kind of the springboard for Kate. I'm like, okay, I'm not a parent. I have a dog, but I'm not a parent. Trying to get into the why you would go to such extremes, and trying to tap into that. But to me, it was also I get a kick out of trying to like the audience, trying to get the audience to like a character that might not necessarily be likable, and finding the humanity in them despite perhaps their actions. So the fact that you said that is actually really great. So thank you.
I mean, there was nothing about Kate that I found unlikable. Maybe it's because as a parent, I could totally sympathize and understand why she did what she needed to do. And to our audience, we're going to, because this is a fairly recent movie that was released, we're going to not give away any spoilers. So we're going to sort of tiptoe around those landmines and not give
Good.
away
Thanks
too
for telling me
much,
that.
which is really difficult to do, but we're going to do our best. So, when you got the script and you read through this and you saw what the whole story is basically about, what were your initial reactions?
I mean, I'm not in a place in my career right now where scripts just land on my desk. I get a script. I'm like, great. What can I do with it? How can I make it interesting? How can I put my take on it? Um, but in terms of this one, again, without giving away too much, there is very much two, well, more than two, but different sides to Kate that we see. So being able to, the range of colors that I can paint with in this character was just so enticing to me. I kind of got to do a full spectrum. So, as a selfish actor, I was like, yeah, I want to get my teeth into this one.
What was it that you wanted to bring to Kate that was not in the script? Part of yourself, your take on Kate that you brought to the screen?
I feel like I should have some very philosophical answer to that. You, I don't know that I made a choice to I think that any actor doing their job well, just parts of you just seep into the character, and that's why you get cast, because your version is different to the other person, the however many people are auditioning. So I don't know that it was a conscious decision. Although I am quite a gentle person in regular life, and I try to see the best in people all the time. So perhaps something about her humanity.
Okay. Now, this is not a spoiler, it's in the synopsis of the movie. Uh, your character with your daughter is in witness protection because your husband in the film killed a little girl. Okay. Uh, this part is not really handed to us on a silver platter in the film, but how did you come to grips with the fact that you and Beth, who is the character, your daughter, have to be under witness protection?
You know what? That was actually something for me that really clicked once we got to the set. So we filmed in this massive old house out in the middle of Ontario, nowhere. Um, and I'm not gonna lie, like before we got there, I was struggling with the isolation. This is pre-COVID, so nobody knew what isolating was then. And then once we actually, we had that big old barn, that kind of really clicked in for me. So I was very thankful to have that real life situation to help.
Bring it all together. Now,
Yeah.
when it came, you are under witness protection program, in the witness protection program, and as the movie unfolds through the first, second, and third act, we get to find out more and more information as to what really happened. In your take, Kate had to make a really hard decision in regard to her husband. Uh, how difficult was that in portraying and tempering your emotions when you find out that Brad, who was your husband, who is in jail, when you got the news that he died in jail?
How difficult was it? I mean, it's just a case of finding a way into that scenario and whatever that personalization means to you. And obviously guilt is, without giving away too much, there's a huge amount of guilt and second guessing yourself. And I've gone through a lot of that in real life, so I'm sure as we all have. So it was definitely challenging in terms of, we were a small budget film, we weren't a huge budget, and I didn't have my own trailer. I didn't have, I'm trying to find a corner in the middle of the room while everyone's setting up, sorry, in the middle of the house while everybody else is setting up, and, trying to find a focus area to get into that headspace. That was hard. But then, yeah, you just got to get on with it.
Yeah. Now you are from the UK, but you currently live in Canada.
That's correct.
Was this film shot in Canada?
Yeah, just a couple hours drive from Toronto, which is where I am in Toronto.
Okay. So like I said, I mean, hats off to Beth, who was played by Tessa Kozma. That little girl was brilliant. How did you find working with her? Were you impressed when the director yelled action and what she brought to the set?
Oh God, yeah. It's frustrating because adult actors, we think so much and really trying to get in. I'm in the corner. I'm trying to get into whatever scene I'm about to be in. Tessa would be scrolling through her iPad, joking around, like, okay, ready to go, ready to go. Bam, she's straight into whatever it is we're doing. So it was frustrating to see her be able to do that in a loving way. But I was in awe of her. I guess. Well, she wasn't. She was, I think, 11 when we filmed. So, she still had that childlike innocence, and they just don't overthink things. She just got up and did it.
Yeah, and
It was great. So great to see.
she was brilliant, and the way you two worked together was amazing. Did you and her spend any time together alone to try to build up that chemistry that we saw on the screen?
We didn't. We had a callback rehearse. No, like a callback. I'd been cast, but Craig David Wallace was just kind of wanted to see us work together. So we had that one meeting, and then I believe it was on set. So as soon as you get on set, you're like, "Hi, Tessa, I'm gonna be your mom." But it kind of worked for me. I mean, I can't speak for Tessa because we, as much as I would do anything for my daughter, there was still this kind of barrier between Kate and Beth in terms of the story and things going on. So it kind of helped.
So was Tessa cast before you were?
No, I believe I was cast first because then I came in to do the read with Tessa. I think Craig pretty much knew it was her. He just wanted to see us work together. And as soon as we did, I think it was a no-brainer with her.
Now, would you describe Kate throughout all the horrible events that unfolded in regards to the family, absolutely just living in denial and thinking that this is something as a parent she can control.
Yeah, I mean, blissful ignorance, maybe, just, pushing stuff down. And I think she just always, she, in her mind, it's just one track. It's must do what is best for Beth. And she does, she's got the blinkers on and she can't see all the other
For
disastrous, stuff that's going on around her.
for me, I think the blindfolds for Kate came off in the end when you look at Beth and ask her, "Do you love me as well?" or something to that nature. I think
Yeah,
that's when she really saw the situation for what it was like. Do you agree?
I mean, yes, I'm trying to, gosh, my memory's so bad. It was a long time ago. I do, like, in the moment, um, I kind of remember still feeling this point of desperation. Like, what, just like looking for something. Please, more of a, she wanted Beth's approval. Please tell me what I've done was right. You know, if you love me too, then it's not all for nothing. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I've spoken to plenty of actors, and a lot of them are very self critical of their work. Like I said, you were absolutely phenomenal. When you saw the final product at a screening or wherever you saw it, were you genuinely impressed with the film in general?
Yes, self-critical actors. It is the way it is. I will say for this film, well, I didn't get to watch it on a big screen yet. I had to watch it in my living room because of COVID.
Hmm.
But I was able to sit back and enjoy the film as a whole, as opposed to, oh God, why am I doing that? Why is my face making, like, why did
I
I make
get
that
it.
decision? What a terrible decision. So I did, yeah, I did enjoy it as a whole. It's hard.
It is. And it is a horror film. It is a thriller. It's a mystery. It's a suspense. It falls under a lot of different umbrellas, under the horror subgenre. You can't just, pigeonhole it into one category, which I think it's what makes it so great. It's about character. It's about human beings and how they react to situations, especially when it comes to their own family. Uh, as far as the guilt in regards to Brad and your husband, was there any special kind of techniques that you put on the screen as to how she must have been just overwhelmed with that guilt in order to protect her daughter and ultimately what she had to do to Brad?
Oh gosh, I don't know if there was a technique per se. I mean, you do your work before you get to set and try and create this well-rounded human being, and you just kind of have to let go of that and trust it in the moment.
Now, at the end of every shooting day, because this is such an emotionally intense character, did you find it hard to put Kate aside for the day? Or are you the kind of actor that sort of lives in it as you're going through the whole shooting process to keep that authenticity?
Well, we shot a lot of nights. It was like almost 2 weeks of nights. So I'm not gonna lie. By the time we finished for the day at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, I was like, I am going to bed. Um, so didn't find it hard to let go at the end of the day. Happy to go home, go to bed. In the moment, you're in the middle of a scene, maybe in between takes. I like to kind of keep in the vein of whatever it is that we're doing. I'm not like Tessa. I can't just start joking around with the crew and then come back to whatever the intensity is. So yes and no, but I'm pretty good at letting go at the end of the day.
Now, you've appeared in a lot of stuff over the years. You have done stints on like some paranormal shows like Paranormal 911, which, by the way, I love those kind of shows. So, was this your first real deep dive into a horror film?
No, no, I've been pretty lucky. The first kind of big, well, the role for me that really started changing things was I did a role in a film called Poor Agnes. I think it was in 2017, where I played a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that for me was kind of the domino that started tipping things. And then, I did a couple other horrors after that. I did Life Changer, and then For the Sake of Vicious. Um, so yeah, I've been sort of lucky. And each of the films that I've done in the horror genre, they've actually, like you just said, they kind of always have fallen over a bit of an umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily straight up horror, which is something that I actually would like to do,
So, do
but
you have
not
an
yet.
appreciation for horror, not only maybe as a fan, but also making them as well?
Yeah, well, I'll be completely honest. Before I started doing any kind of horror films, I wouldn't watch them because I'm a big old scaredy cat. Like I just couldn't. I would watch one a year on Halloween, and that was it. But now that I understand it a bit more, and like honestly, the horror fans. I think first year we went to Fantasia with Poor Agnes, and I was just like, wow, what like great,
Yeah.
amazing people. They just love it, and they're very welcoming and open to actors that they don't know, and not necessarily a household name, but the horror fans are just so passionate. So I've definitely got a respect for them.
I gotta point out the pictures and the props you have in the background. Are you a big Back to the Future fan?
It's not me. No, but, well, I mean, I am. I like the film, but I can't take credit for this. This is my boyfriend's doing. Although he did add a Poor Agnes one a little further up, if you can see
Ah,
that.
there
So
you go.
I made it.
Awesome.
I made it to the wall.
I
Well,
love the license plate. I love the
I
license
know.
plate. Going back to Motherly, this is something that is not pure fiction. This happens. This is real life. Did you find that disturbing at all?
Well, I didn't know about this until I don't even know if I knew about it before we shot. I just Craig David Wallace, our director, and myself were in an interview together, and he actually started talking about where the story came from, and yeah, it was based loosely on some real life happenings, I believe, in Canada. Um, yeah, of course, it's disturbing. It's you know
Absolutely.
awful.
And we're going to sort of give a little bit of a, not really a spoiler, but touch on the topic of psychopathy, okay? And the inability of a human being not to feel any kind of emotions, whether it's fear, love, anything. And this movie touches on that. Did you do any kind of research into the what's now falls under the term of I think it's called social personality disorder or something like that, where it encompasses conditions like psychopaths and uh, everything else.
Sociopath.
Yeah,
I mean,
sociopaths. I mean, did you do any kind of research into that?
not for this. To me, Kate is not a psychopath.
Mm.
She believes, I mean, psychologists may argue differently, but to me, in her mind, she just knew what she needed to do to make sure that her one loved one that she had left is okay. Whereas previous role, like the Poor Agnes role I did, I spent tons of time researching, watching YouTube videos of serial killers and the charm that they have. I mean, I guess there was an element of that in terms of Kate, but specifically for this role, no, I didn't.
As an actor, I mean, how do you find, how important do you think researching, like in this instance, a mental disorder, into bringing that onto the screen? Do you feel sometimes it is useful, but other times it's better to just go in fresh and just bring what you think about it to the screen?
I mean, I can only speak to my without sounding like a douchey actor process, what I do compared to everyone else. I think there's no right and wrong. It's whatever you feel that you need to do to make the most believable, interesting character. Sometimes you like for this role, Kate's a writer, so I spent some time writing a book as Kate to try and get into that headspace, and that to me was a way in to this character, whereas previous roles have focused more on watching videos and doing the research.
Absolutely. Now, the director is Craig David Wallace, as you mentioned. Did you spend a lot of time with Craig in conversations into what he wanted to, what his vision was for the movie, and to make sure you guys were in sync?
I mean, not a lot of time, indie productions, the time time is not a luxury. But we definitely had, we had a few phone calls, and he was very generous with his time. Um, him and Ian Malone, who was our co-writer, they spent 8 years, I think, trying to get this film off the ground. So
Wow.
I felt a huge not burden, but responsibility to, do a bloody good job. So
And
I
you
wanted
did.
to speak. Well, thank you. I wanted to speak to him as much as possible. We did talk about Kate's sort of why she was the way she was. We actually had a cool conversation because to me, that was kind of where it got stuck. I'm like, okay, why does she do this? And he actually wrote a little bit into the story about Beth being sort of a miracle child that Kate didn't think she could have,
Yeah,
and that kind of starts to focus on why she's so protective.
absolutely. So, how did you hear about this project? Is it something that you and your agent actively pursued? Was the script sent to your agent? How did you come across auditioning and then ultimately getting the role?
Oh, I wish it was sent. I'm not that cool yet. No,
You're a great
nobody's.
actress. You're a great
Thank you.
actress.
No one's sending scripts just yet. Hopefully, soon. No, I actually. So, Abby Federgreen and Laura Tremblay are producers. I've worked with both of them quite a few times. So I know when the project happened, Abby was definitely advocating for me. But I still, had to send in a self tape, regardless of knowing Abby well and calling him a friend. I had to do it like everybody else. Um, and yeah, got the role that way.
Now, Kate, the way you brought her onto the screen and presented her to us is a very empowered, strong woman. Okay, uh, is that was that your intention? Is that what how you wanted the audience to see Kate as?
It's so funny because not that I didn't want the audience to see her like that, but that was never a direct intention. To me, it was just the writing was there, and it was whatever was on the page. Kind of my kind of not my go-to, but my natural instincts are I don't feel that I'm strong. I still feel like I'm like 21 years old. I'm like this little girl in my head. So when I'm playing, characters that have kids and stuff, I'm like, oh gosh, okay. Um, so I guess just the great writing from Ian and Craig gave me a foundation, and then from there, that's I guess the strength just came through.
Obviously, in the film, you and your daughter are isolated. It looks, I mean, the scenery, the location, it looked beautiful where you guys filmed it at. I mean, how would you describe the location itself?
Yeah, so we were by Lake Erie, so like I said, a couple hours from Toronto, in the middle of nowhere. We literally stayed in a it was like the Bates Motel, half an hour away from set, and the barn especially. So the barn was actually getting ripped down and completely rebuilt by the owners, and the house has been all done up as well. So we basically had a bit of a carte blanche in terms of what we were able to do around there, which was kind of nice.
That's very
Um,
nice.
yeah, it really helped. We were, in the middle of nowhere. The landscape was just great. It had that kind of eerie feeling already. Um, no
Out,
pun intended.
out of all, out of all the roles that you've had so far, would you say this has been one of the most emotionally intensive for you to do?
Uh,
Because we see a range of emotions that Kate goes through.
it's
You know,
true.
we see you trying to comfort your daughter and protect her, but not telling her everything that's going on. We see you completely break down and start bawling your eyes out in front of her. So that's what basically leads me to this question. Has this been one of the
Oh.
most emotionally challenging roles that you've had to do?
I hadn't really thought about it, but now, and I said before, one of the allures to this role was the fact that from here to here, like everything in between, And then yeah, you get on set like, oh, well, this isn't easy, is it? Why did I why did I decide to do this? So yeah, I actually would say it has been. There's been snippets of things in other films that I've done. I recently, I think after Motherly, I did a film for Lifetime where I played a doctor who had issues with her daughter and almost loses her daughter, and I definitely drew on some of Kate for
Hmm.
that. So yeah, thanks for making me think.
I think I think what makes this movie, one of the things that makes this movie so great, is as the film progresses and these layers are starting to be peeled back, we as the audience really do start to question what really did happen. Did Brad actually kill this little girl? Was it Kate and she just framed her husband until we ultimately get to the truth? Do you like that way of storytelling where the audience is literally kept guessing until the final act?
Yeah, I mean, I neither like nor dislike it. It's, it is the story, and it made, it made this story interesting, and to be able, for the audience to be involved and be constantly guessing, who it was. So yeah, I think it worked for this instance.
Now, you said you guys filmed this pre COVID, so it must have been somewhere around 2019. So you guys literally had to sit for over 2 years waiting for it to be released. As an actor, you move on to the next project, but was there any part of you that was anticipating the release of the film?
Well, we actually filmed it right up until COVID hit. So we had, I think it was a 3 week shoot, and we'd be traveling back to Toronto on the weekends, go back to set on a Monday morning. And every weekend we'd kind of have a meet, like, oh, have you heard about this weird thing called COVID? What's going on? And then week two, everyone came back and it was like, oh, it's a little bit more serious. And then that third week, every single day, our producers, again, Avi and Laura, would check in and say, is everyone feeling safe? We will shut down if we need to. We actually ended up shutting down production a day early because we went into lockdown. So they had to pick up one last day, gosh, 7 or 8 months later. Um,
So you had to go back to finish, or were your parts done?
I was done,
Okay.
which was nice for me because it was Colin Paradine who played Hal. He had to go back and do a full day, which I don't envy him for, because you kind of compartmentalize things and say, right, moved on from that. So to then go back in 7 or 8 months later must have been challenging for him.
So this is pretty
Um,
interesting. Motherly was the last film you did before COVID changed the entertainment industry, and it's still changing. Working now and seeing all the changes that have been implemented, do you feel safe going on set and all the precautions that are being taken?
yeah, absolutely. I like you. It's one of the safest places to be. Everyone's getting tested every other day, or every day, and masks on, shields on. It's hard though, because sometimes you'll be acting with someone there off camera, and they are being made to keep a mask on, and you're trying to interact with a human, and all you can see is this.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. That part I don't like, but I definitely feel safe.
You've been on, like I said, you've been on a lot of other projects as well. You started in the film For the Sake of Vicious. How did that film come along for you?
That was another production by Avi Federgreen. He was our producer in that. And again, he definitely advocated for me, but I did my self tape, and I went in and I met our directors, Reese Evaneshan and Gabe Carrera. Um, yeah, that was, I mean, I'm just getting the auditions through from my agent like everyone else.
Since the release of Motherly, have you noticed any uptick? Like you've mentioned several times, scripts don't have not been coming easily to you. Uh, it takes time for a movie to catch on fire. Motherly was released in November, so barely 2 months ago. As more and people watch this and they see all the performances, have you noticed like a bigger demand, more scripts being sent your way or whatnot?
Victor Man, I don't know. I mean, I've had some great auditions recently, and a couple of things taken hold. Nothing in solid writing yet. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. It's hard to say.
You got to give it time. It does. And, I mean, things in
Yeah.
entertainment do not happen overnight. But like I said, you definitely were a huge key factor in making this movie great. And I cannot stress it enough for our audience to go out and watch this film. It's an amazing film, Motherly. It's available on your video on demand platform of choice. Before we go, do you have any final thoughts you want to share?
No, I don't think so. Just thank you so much for having me. And if you haven't seen the film yet, then I hope you enjoy it. And if you did watch it, I hope you were moved, entertained, scared, thrilled, all of the above.
Absolutely. And like I said, it's hard because we don't want to give stuff away. We want the audience to watch it and be surprised because it is exactly one of those kind of movies. With each act, layers and layers get peeled back until you reach the ending. And the surprising thing, not really surprising, about Motherly is that when you do get to the end and you look back to from the beginning of the movie in retrospect, you're like, how could I miss it?
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I've done a couple interviews with Craig, our director, and he said himself, it wasn't necessarily about a twist per se. It was just the way that they felt the story should go. So some people might get it right away, and that's okay. Um, but it's fun that the audience can be involved in the story as it goes.
Absolutely. And I don't want to spoil it for them. I want you guys to go out and watch this. You will not be disappointed. Laura, thank you so much for coming on
Thank
here
you.
and sharing your thoughts and experiences with Motherly. Again, guys, go out and watch it. On behalf of Laura Burke and myself, stay safe and always stay walking. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.